Hey, what's up viewers? It's Steven here from the Upshift Car Blog, and today we have this 2020 Kia Telluride SX, and we're going to be doing a quick POV review and of course our signature off-road test. So let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with the exterior of the Telluride, I really love the way this looks. This dual stacked LED headlight looks fantastic. The LED headlights are on the SX trims only. You do get these kind of interesting fog lights there at the bottom. They do look pretty nice though, walking around here. So these SX vehicles come with 19-inch gloss black wheels. These are Michelin tires that come standard. 245/50 R20 is the size. And one thing that's interesting about the SX trim is you only get black wheels. So I'm not a huge fan of all black wheels. They do look nice, but I would prefer a little bit of more of like an aluminum or polished look, but doesn't matter. All right, so you get the dual exhaust on the higher trims. On lower trims, it's just kind of a blanked out piece. Kind of get this faux skid plate. My car has the tow hitch. So the reason why I say tow hitch is because there's a difference between the tow hitch option and the tow package option. So the tow hitch is a $475 option that gets you the tow hitch and the harness, while the tow package is only available on EX and SX trims and gets you the tow hitch, harness, and the self-leveling rear air suspension for $795. So keep in mind here for 2020 models, you got this 4-pin connector, which is mildly useless. But on 2021 models, they gave you a round 7-pin connector. So instead of this flat 4, you get a round 7-pin connector, which is going to be what you're going to want if you're towing. This 4-pin connector isn't really rated for 5,000 pounds. The round 7 will definitely be your choice. So if you do plan on towing, make sure you get the 2021 model. 8.2 inches of, actually 8 inches of ground clearance on the all-wheel drive models of the Telluride, which is pretty adequate for the class. Let's go hop in the interior. All right, so my car has the white leather, and I do recommend if you are looking at Telluride to get a lighter color interior because it does help to brighten up the cabin a little bit. Nothing wrong with black leather at all, but it does feel a little dark for me, so I do recommend a lighter color like this white here, or maybe nothing darker than a brown leather. I do really like this open pore wood look. Gives it kind of a nice modern but also rustic look, which really fits the Telluride and its kind of image. And yeah, just this interior overall looks really nice. It's super comfortable. Nothing has broken, no issues on this car over 20,000 miles so far. The leather has stayed really nice and soft, which sometimes some cars the leather will start to harden and become like a rock. So far this leather has held up really, really well. Moving on to the second row here. So again, on SX trims, you can get heated and cooled rear seats. And you also get rear captain's chairs. So on lower trims, like the LX, you get a bench seat. Nothing wrong with the bench seat. These captains, though, are really nice. And you also get tons of legroom, as you can see. So the seat closest to me is all the way back, whereas the seat on the passenger side is all the way forward. So you kind of see the difference in legroom. And it's really quite easy to fold the second seats here. Just press the button and boom. Again, power lift gates. And here on the third row, you see lots of space, especially with the third row seats folded down here. They do create a nice load floor. Third row seat occupants also get like a nice little grab handle for getting in. Cup holders, USB type A ports. Also lots of cigarette ports or power ports here. You do get power folding or automatically folding second row seat buttons back here. So a lot of people talk about how the Telluride doesn't have the power folding third row seats, and I don't know, like one thing about power seats is that it's always really slow. With the strap here that Kia gives you, just pull it. Look, it's not locking. There you go. All right, and that was pretty easy. Let's do the 40% split here. I'm going to need 2 hands. All right, so that was done. And one thing that, power folding seats, again, it takes a long time, and You know, I've always found it really hard to just pull a strap like this. Very difficult and time consuming, I know. Honestly, I do prefer the strap system, even though it's not kind of as luxurious as a power folding seat. It's just so much faster. Like, you could, you know, pull these seats up and down in the same time it takes the seat with the power system, like in the Hyundai, to just move one direction. And third row comfort is generally quite good, by the way. All right, so hopping into the third row, I'll just go ahead and take a seat here. And yeah, third row seat space is pretty good, especially with the seats all the way forward. You know, I have tons of room here. Again, I'm 5'5", lots of leg room. Headroom is pretty good if you're maybe like 5'7" or taller. The rear seat space may be too short for you, but overall, this is a really nice back seat. Definitely one of the larger ones in its class. Over 20,000 miles. Yeah, again, not much really in terms of the interior quality. Some items like these little plastic hooks up here sometimes will come out if you are really rough with the sunshade. You know, some of the interior plastic bits, like this seat belt hook, sometimes will fall off if you're really rough. So what I mean by seatbelt hooks are these little plastic pieces that I circled in red, and they just kind of hold the seatbelt, kind of tuck it away when not in use. All right, so let's go ahead and go for a drive here. All right, so driving the Kia Telluride. First thing that, you know, when I sit in the car, a lot of space up here. Again, I do recommend the lighter interior because it does help to kind of brighten up the cabin a little bit. Also, there's lots of glass, this square kind of greenhouse. Big windows too help to make this car have good visibility. In addition to the fact that you have, you know, like the blind spot cameras, the blind spot monitor, you have all these advanced driver assistance systems to help you out. But even still, there's lots of glass, and it does help to make this car pretty airy. Also, these seats really nice and comfortable. Even for someone of, you know, kind of small like me, there's lots of seat comfort. The bolsters are pretty well. The steering wheel feels pretty nice as well. You know, everything about this car is easy to use. I do like the fact that this car has lots of buttons for everything that you need. So all your radio buttons are down here in the middle. If you do have like a LX or S trim, all the buttons are going to be in the center nav screen because you have a smaller nav screen, about 8 inches instead of 10 inches. But overall, the interior looks really nice. All the technology works really great. Apple CarPlay, the Kia infotainment looks good, works great. I do like that they take advantage of the real estate on the screen, so you can divide it up into 3 sections. Also, the gauge cluster looks pretty good as well. It is really legible. That's one thing that's great about this non-digital dash, is that everything is really easy to read despite, you know, adverse lighting conditions or, you know, direct sunlight. So this car has the 3.8 liter V6, about 290 horsepower, around 260 pound-feet of torque. And it's, you know, it gets the car going pretty decently. It's not the fastest, but, you know, it revs out pretty nicely. It delivers really nice and smooth power and is pretty quiet too, especially out here on the freeway right now. Really not too much road noise. I believe that the road noise in Car and Driver's car, they tested it, and it was right around that of a Land Rover or slightly better, so that just shows you how quiet this car is. However, there have been some notes that the lower trim, so the LX and the S, are a bit louder. I believe that's because Kia uses a different glass, a more acoustically treated glass for the higher trim, like the EX and the SX, and the LX and the S get different window glass to help. So I guess there's a little bit of a difference in terms of road noise there. So fuel economy is not bad for the class, pretty average, but I do wish it was better. About 19 city, 24 or so highway, 21 combined. I'm averaging, before I filled up, I averaged about 21 miles per gallon during my usage. So right on the EPA's numbers. Again, you know, not great, but at least that you are hitting the EPA numbers pretty well there. So you're not, you know, kind of getting a mileage number that's, you know, way below it or anything like that. One thing about this engine I do wish is that it had a little bit more torque. 260 foot-pounds, you know, isn't a bad number, but it just feels kind of light for a car of this size and a car of this weight. Kia's driver assistance systems, by the way, work pretty well. So adaptive cruise here, let me go ahead and put this on. So as you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but hopefully you can see it, that I'm not driving the car and it's holding the lane really well. I do like how it's really easy to use, really easy to set. It does read the lines pretty well, but I have heard some reports that the lane keeping assist can be kind of fussy, and the, you know, emergency braking can be kind of fussy as well. Thankfully, Kia makes it really easy to turn those systems off. So you just use the buttons over here to the left of the steering wheel. Ride comfort is really nice. So you'll hear me keep saying smooth and smooth about this car, but that's really how this ride comfort is. It's really smooth. It soaks up bumps really well. There's no, you know, kind of belly jiggling that you would get like in a firmer suspension car. And that's one thing that I really like, is the suspension is just smooth and comfortable. It doesn't try to be sporty. This car itself doesn't try to be sporty. You know, there's no paddle shifters. There's no, you know, overly harsh suspension. There's no quirks about it. You do get a sport mode, but that's about the only kind of sportiness that you're going to get. And actually, I really like that. The fact that you know, that the car is all about comfort. So this blind spot camera works really well. I do really like it. And you also, in the higher trims, you get the surround view monitor, so you get the 360 camera, the forward cameras, and those look really well. The image quality that you get on the center screen here looks really nice, and it really helps for kind of low speed maneuvering. Even when I was off-roading too, I was able to use those cameras to good use, especially since the hood is pretty flat. It's hard to kind of see where you're going, kind of help to place the wheel, see what's in front of you. So those cameras really came in handy there. Brake pedal feels really nice. Steering weights up pretty nicely through the corners as well. Yeah, good braking action here. Nice and firm brake pedal. Really helps to give you some nice confidence when braking. Steering is pretty numb, but it does, you know, again, weight up nicely. Has good speed. Overall, like, again, a really smooth car. There's no, you know, sporty pretense about it, but the handling you will find to be secure and stable throughout, you know, corners and throughout everyday driving. Obviously, you're not going to chase any sports cars down with this car, but you will find the handling to be, you know, pretty adequate and definitely sufficient for most people's needs. Auto start stop system too is on this car, and it does work really good. It's really, you know, not obtrusive at all, and works pretty smart. So I'm never, you know, just sitting at a stoplight with the green light in front of me and you know, pressing the gas and not going anywhere. You know, as soon as you let off the brake, it fires the engine up right away and you're off again. So I do recommend, you know, keep it on, as you know, studies have shown it does save quite a bit of gas. You know, heated and ventilated seats up here do work really well. And SX trims, you can get heated and ventilated seats in the back, which is a really nice option. Also something that isn't too common or even available at all in this price point for any of its competitors. It is kind of a cool luxury feature that you don't really get too much. talking about pricing a little bit, so the pricing on this car is really competitive, and even the base model trims come very well equipped. So you know, you get like blind spot monitor, and even in the base model trim, which is pretty excellent. So overall thoughts on this car, pretty good on the road, and let's go ahead and get into the off-road section here. So out here on the trail, the taller tires, so the bigger profile is really paying some dividends out here. So I'm not as worried about scraping the rims up, or not as worried. Obviously there's still a concern with street tires, but not as worried about punctures compared to the Sorento with the X-Line package, because again, the taller profile tire is really helping to smooth out some of these bumps and some of these kind of little sharp rocks here. Also, the softer suspension on a Telluride is definitely paying some dividends here as well, in that you're able to, let me just let this biker go. All right, so again, kind of the softer suspension on the Telluride compared to the Sorento, it's really helping to pay some dividends out here on the trail. It's able to soak up the bumps quite a bit better than the Sorento, and obviously the Sorento is still comfortable, very comfortable ride, but just a slightly softer suspension tune is taking the edge off some of these large bumps here. The interesting thing on the Telluride is that there's no hill descent control. Okay, so for this first clip, I have the car in all-wheel drive lock and with the comfort mode selected. As you can see, all right, about now, there's just tons of wheel spin and I'm really not going anywhere. So I back up and I take a different line and I switch the car to smart mode to see how that works. With the car in smart mode, take a look at how the wheels are behaving. So for the second run, I'm taking the same exact line, or as close to it as possible, and I have the Telluride in snow mode, which is the only kind of off-road mode available for us here in the States. Canadian models get sand and mud modes. But watch the car grab the brakes, or pulsate the brakes, I should say, getting me up the hill much more effectively than in smart or comfort mode. Alright, so here's a quick clip where I got a bit hung up. Even in snow mode, the car wasn't able to transfer enough power to the non-spinning wheels to pull me over this rut here. And this is where I wish the Telluride had a bit more engine torque, or a shorter first gear to help multiply the engine's torque to help pull this car over these ruts a bit more effectively. However, overall, this Kia Telluride is showing a pretty solid off-road performance here, especially with the all-wheel drive lock and snow mode engaged. And this car does articulate pretty decently for an independent suspension car. Look at the wheels, especially that left rear wheel, get really tucked up into that wheel well right here. To conclude, the Kia Telluride is like my ideal bottle of wine, trusty, smooth, and distinctive. The Telluride wins me over thanks to its capable on- and off-road abilities, its distinctive interior and exterior design, smooth engine, responsive yet smooth transmission, and its wonderfully comfortable suspension. If you're looking for a sporty SUV, I would suggest the Kia Sorento, which I recently reviewed on this channel, or Mazda's own CX-9. More torque or a shorter first gear, an X-Line trim with off-road tires, skid plates, and more ground clearance, hill descent control and a digital dash, and improved fuel economy are additions that I'd like to see. However, these are pretty minor nitpicks for what is otherwise an excellent and very highly awarded SUV. Of course, there's a reason why it's won so many awards after all. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and let me know what cars you guys would like to see next. See you guys next time.